I'm talking with Dr. Scott McGill and his son Mike, who are working for Veterans in Defense of Liberty. And before we get into what exactly you're putting together, give me a little bit of background. What was the inspiration for this?
The inspiration came, I was in, of course, I served in the United States Marine Corps from 65, 71, and then the Army Medical Corps from 1981 to 88 as an OBGYN. Then I launched private practice for the next 20-plus years. And back in 2010, it's really... It was ironic, or maybe providential. I had put something up on a social site called Together We Served, which had 250,000 Marines on it, prior service Marines. And I had put something up about John Murtha. And one of these Marines fired back and said John Murtha was one of only 2 ex-Marines that I've ever heard of. And he said, but if America's going to be saved, the Marines will save her.
Okay, now let's define save from what exactly?
Save from the direction that it was going and towards a socialist nation.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people realized that at that time, but be that as it may, I gave that a lot of thought and was motivated to the belief that America is a saver from losing its constitutional fidelity, if you would. And that if that was going to be saved, the veterans could save it. Okay. And so we launched this Veterans in Defense of Liberty, which is in a nutshell dedicated to returning and maintaining the integrity of the Republic based upon the correct moral constitutional values. The United States came into existence like no other nation in the world with the ratification of our Constitution, which replaced the rule of man with the rule of law. And at that point, I think it was obvious, and at this point, I think it's blatantly obvious that there is a faction attempting to replace the rule of law with the rule of emotionalism. And hence that was the beginning of Veterans in Defense of Liberty. And we are a 501c4, a not-for-profit, not a charity. We are veterans coming together in the brotherhood that we all know and share and love, but not just a brotherhood, but a brotherhood with a mission, and that mission is to maintain our constitutional, our individual liberty, our culture, and our nation itself.
Okay, Michael, in order to do this, you could choose several different routes or all of the above. You can do social activism, you could vote, you could run for office. So what's the plan?
Yes, absolutely. In reality, it's a broad spectrum that we have to take on. We have, in the past, we have done a lot of social networking. We have written multiple amicus briefs. We played very heavily in the Bladensburg Cross issue, for example, in conjunction with Kelly Shackelford with First Liberty Institute, and wrote the amicus brief A. There were actually 2 of them. One encouraging the Supreme Court to take on that case, and then the second one encouraging the Supreme Court to uphold religious liberty through the Bladensburg Cross, which was a cross in just outside of Washington, D.C., that was established by the American Legion, honoring the World War I veterans that did not return, that the lower courts had said had to be taken down because of the separation of church and state, which is non-existent really. But and ironically, in his majority opinion, the justice who wrote that, Alito, basically mirrored our our amicus, which was very pleasing, and we won that. That was a major win for religious liberty. So, and we have members that have run and are running for Congress, and have been engaged in a lot of their states as well. So we are trying to cover the waterfront. One of our big drives, though, is to educate not only ourselves but the American public. What America is, and where America was intended to be, and what the Constitution is, and how to return to the tenets of individual liberty and limited government, and with governmental powers being strictly limited to those that are enumerated.
When you say that you want to educate the public, are we talking about a classroom situation or social media? Or in other words, what's the outreach look like?
Well, we have launched a program just recently called Champions of Liberty. And that is a program where we bring into D.C., we brought the first class in a few weeks ago, and educate them for a very intensive week with national educators and speakers, and educate them on some on Western civilization, how that led to American exceptionalism, what the Constitution is, what it really says, what the hot-button topics are. And we did that at the National Archives and the Museum of the Bible. And then we went for 2.5 days of intense training with Morton Blackwell at Leadership Institute, teaching them how to, as I like to put it, wield the sword of truth on the invisible battlefield of ideas.
So if you're reaching out, since you're talking to a lot of people who are across the West here, especially in the Wyoming area, there's a lot of veterans who are in small town areas, and then they might not be able to get to where you're meeting. So I would assume there's some place they can go to follow along?
Well, absolutely. And in fact, what we intend to do with all the states in Wyoming as well, and Michael is going to take the leadership, but Veterans in Defense of Liberty is divides the country into 8 divisions. Each division then is divided into the regiment or the level of the state level. And each state is divided into the congressional district. And there will be chapters or battalions in most places in every congressional district. So now Wyoming is obviously a little strange and counters places like California and Texas with having only one congressional district. But we would anticipate that there will actually be a company, a Veterans in Defense of Liberty company, in Cheyenne, in Casper, in, is it Gillette?
Yes, Gillette, Wyoming's way up there on I-80. So, Michael, sounds like you're going to be in charge of this. What's the plan?
Well, the plan, first and foremost, is to get the word out. I mean, so many veterans, when we get out, there's so many things we miss. We miss the brotherhood, but more importantly, we miss the brotherhood with a mission and a common mission. So as we can gather these veterans that are missing that in their lives, we can move forward, one, what we believe to be better for the nation, and better for the veteran individually, because it gives him that piece that he's missing in his life since he's gotten out. So getting the word out, I think, first and foremost is paramount. You know, people need to know we're here, what we're about, and then we start educating just the veterans and the people to teach them how far we've come from the Founding Fathers' ideas and ideals of the nation, and move forward from there.
Okay, so to start a club like this, I guess you might need a location and meeting times. Where does it all begin? I would assume there in Cheyenne?
Probably, since I'm local to Cheyenne, I'd say Cheyenne would be the natural jumping off spot.
Okay, and then you got to start working your way up and making little outposts all across the region then.
Correct.
Okay, so what do you need?
Boy, oh boy! What we need primarily is somebody behind us that is able to help get the word out, and people, a couple of people that, for example, Michael will be the regimental commander and also functioning as a battalion commander for the congressional district, since there's only one. But what will be needed is somebody in each of the company areas, or Cheyenne, Casper, Gillette, that are willing to take this on and organize within their own community. That way. I digress just a minute, if I can, Glenn.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think I have a lot of respect for the Tea Parties. I spoke at several Tea Parties and belonged to a lot of them. I think that they were a flash in the pan, sort of, more or less, only for one primary reason, and that is they did not understand chain of command, and everybody started going off in their individual direction. What we as veterans understand the chain of command, and so can march, if you would, on the invisible battlefield of ideas as a united voice. And we will. These Michael, for example, is a graduate of the Champions of Liberty program, and any of the ones that would take leadership position in Wyoming would be invited to the next Champions of Liberty program, which will probably be the end of March. And by doing that, these gentlemen will all be able to go back out. They will become the go-to individuals for talk radio, for op-eds, doing the public speaking at all of the civic events. And we also have a program called Why We Served, which is intended to get veterans into the schools to help explain why we all served, why we were willing to sacrifice so much for a country, and that, of course, is dedication to support and defend the Constitution and what that is. So it's going to be a broad spectrum of getting the points across. We will be able to use local veterans, for example, to get into the schools. We will bring in some Medal of Honor recipients who are on board with us to also talk within the school system. There will be anticipated that each of the three company areas will have their own meetings, but they will work together very diligently because they can work well with the state of Wyoming in support of those constitutional issues that support states' rights, that supports federalism, and so they can all work together.
All right, now in order to get all of this going, people are going to want to look up to see who you are, so I would assume, do you have a website up and social media people can look up?
Absolutely. The website is VIDOL, the initials for Veterans in Defense of Liberty, VIDOLamerica.org. And VIDOLamerica.org. And then they can go to the Champions of Liberty page from there and gain just a tremendous amount of information of what we are, who we are, and why we are. Because as veterans, we swore to defend the oath, to defend the Constitution, and that oath, most veterans understand, never went away. And I would argue at this point that we are in a very real cultural civil war at this time. And if we don't win, and if America goes into that sort of abyss of socialism, we are condemning not only America, but the future of humanity.
All right. So as your organization grows, you know how to keep in touch with us, and hopefully we can grow with you.
Absolutely. We definitely appreciate it.